How are you? It's Tuesday. Katie, it is Tuesday, and the week is hoofing by. Hoofing flying, so it is. Yes, a good reaction actually to yesterday's video about the red breast. A lot of people talking about the various different ones, and then we had a few questions on it as well. So, but I think Sinead dealt with them. Today I'm going to talk about not a brand. I'm going to talk about wine finishes, and it's one of the things that I think it's everybody when you talk about wine finishes, a lot of people sort of nearly dismiss it because when they see like a Rioja, what we consider traditional wines, the Riojas or a Bordeaux or something like that, people go, I don't know. But the problem is, it's nearly everywhere. I mean, there's the only whiskey that's not in a wine finish is a bourbon barrel whiskey.
True.
Everything else is a wine finish, or unless they have beer finishes ones, you know, the oddities that are the beer. But I mean, sherry is a wine finish. Port is a wine finish.
Yeah,
they are fortified wines.
Yeah.
So it's one of the things that not many people sort of, they don't give it the time of day, and they don't really explore it, because following on from yesterday, you know, Redbreast is the sherry finished one, and everybody knows that as that. But the other ones that are really, really doing well are sort of go under the radar, and so much so that the first ever Irish whiskey of the World Whiskey Award that won the world's best single malt was the Teeling 24-year-old. Yes. And that's there on the end. Teeling 24-year-old, and that's finishing Sauterne wine.
Yeah.
And so Sauterne is a dessert wine, a sweet wine from the Frenchists over there in France. Did I tell you I speak French, Katie?
You did, yes.
Multiple times. But again, and I mean, that Sauterne's wine cask has carried through them on winning other multiple awards, the 28 and the 30s and all that sort of stuff. So it's probably one of the ones, again, that not many people sort of give the time of day because it's this wine finish thing. But I mean, 24, the first Irish whiskey to win the world's best single malt. Cracking one to have. And I still think they're underpriced. I really do think they're underpriced because, you know, in years to come, when we're looking back at the history of Irish whiskey, that'll be one that people will be talking about because it was the first. Along with the Teeling and the Sauternes, you've got the Bushmills here. Bushmills, since they woke back up and they realised that they actually have whiskey in the sheds and they weren't just sheds for the crack, they've got some fantastic finishes. I mean, that Muscatel, Sauternes, Dupiel is one of the new ones. You have the Vermouth that they've done recently. There's so many different wine finishes from the Bushmill range, and they're all part of that Causeway collection. Again, I know some people have had favourites with them. Some people don't like them and that. I love the Muscatel. I think it's really, really nice. I like Muscatel.
I like it very much.
And then, well, you like it very much too, because that's what the finish is for the new Dingle Samhain. We were lucky enough to be down in Dingle with the team down there with Graham and Faye and them down, and they were launching that night the Samhain, which is part of the new collection. I don't know if I want to say the word collection, but it is going to be part of a collection from Dingle. So they're going to be celebrating the old traditional pagan, I suppose would be the word, holiday festival. So there's going to be different ones coming out. There's Breed and there's a few different ones coming out. But the first one is Muscatel. It's cracking.
That was lovely. And
the core range that is in Dingle, the blue tube, is port. And we love our port wine finishes here. We've been chatting about port wine. Anybody wants to look back at the videos from our early days, we love the port wine finishes, and that's been really, really good. Here's another one of them. I mean, Teeling have done this one themselves. Amarone cask finish. Again, Amarone is a fortified, it's a sweet wine, but again, another cracker. Beside that, we've got the Thomond Gate from Nick in Limerick, and he's done some mad finishes, but he's also done some really, really good ones, and that Ruby Port is another really, really good one. Beside that, Glendalough Burgundy, again a traditional Grand Cru Burgundy wine cask finish. Glendalough have done a couple of those. Bordeaux is another nice Bordeaux wine. I mean, that the Teeling 13-year-old grain. Grain whiskey really lends itself well to finishes. I mean, really, because it's already starting off at a sweetness, at an easy drinking. It doesn't have the bite that a malt would or a pot still. and I think grain whiskey's really good at that. But that's another good one from the lads. Stephen Murphy, our pal over in Carrickmacross, he's done it with the Maylog. It's got a Bordeaux red wine finish in that as well, and that's a triple cask finish in that one. One of the ones that, again, we all know is the spots. I mean, everybody talks about the spots. So this one, I think, is Marsala, isn't it? I'm nearly sure it's Marsala. It is Madeira. Madeira wine finish for the blue spot. I have a love-hate relationship with blue spot.
You do.
It is, you just have to be in the mood for, not a fight, but you have to be in the mood for just an assault.
Yes.
It just hits you. It's one of the most, I love it. After you get over the first one, then I really, really enjoy it. And maybe it's because the first one's cast strength and it says, but it just smacks you the very first time as well. Underneath we have a set. This is actually a set that's in the auction. There's a set of 6, I think, in total from Napo Castle. A lot of these were airport exclusives or America exclusives. They weren't actually, a lot of places didn't really have them. And so you've got the Chateau Pichon Baron.
Look at you.
He is French also. That is another Burgundy cask, and that is the main, I'm not going to say that one, an Italian one, I presume, Marchesi di Barolo. You've got the 2 Marchesi di Barolos. That one's a Japan edition. I didn't see that actually at the time. And then you've got a Marsala here on the end as well. Cracking whiskies. I mean, again, single malt whiskies. The Napo brand has recently been absorbed, I think would be the best way to describe it. Adopted. Yeah, adopted actually. We like that. Not absorbed. Subsumed. It's like the Borg Collective.
No, adopted.
Yeah.
By IDL.
I'm not saying that IDL is like the Borg.
They're not like
Resistance is futile. That's all I'll say.
Carry on.
It's like them out there fucking Jameson. Resistance is futile. You will love them. Anyhow, on the end, Green Spot. So these are the recent additions from the new Green Spot, and I know there's teasing going on about a new spot being released. These were the ones that were released there recently. There is 4 in total. There's the Masters of Malt, the Mitchells and Son. There's Sergio, our pal Sergio in the Irish Whiskey Magazine has obviously the Greek influence he's brought to bear with them. But I can't. There's a big long word that his wine's called, and I can't think of it now. There's the Butari or something like that. They're ex-Vinsanto, and they're ex-Vinsanto as well. So there you go. And then in the middle is the Hinch. Mm-hmm. So one of the advantages that Hinch has, and I know Middleton probably have too, but Hinch have a wine cask finish. So they've done this one. This is their pairing their 18-year-old with the Chateau de la Ligne. De la Ligne. It's the Bordeaux region of France. Mr. Terry Cross, who owns the Hinch distillery, who really has put his money where his mouth is, and has the Hinch distillery built a fabulous distillery down there. We visited it with the whiskey bus, and Jamie will be a good pal of ours, and Michael and all the team down there, and they're doing great things. And it's fantastic that, you know, an independent person with sufficient budget to do it.
Well, considering he owns Chateau Lelin.
That's what I'm saying. So that's the advantage he has. He doesn't have to worry about sourcing the barrels from a third party, from a broker or anything like that. They are literally his barrels. He orders them today. They're put on a train or a choo-choo or a helicopter. He probably has sufficient funds that he could fly each individual barrel over and back on a helicopter.
Maybe he does, whatever you're into.
Terry's not a poor man.
Whatever you're
Poor
into.
Terry Cross. But he does have, that is the 18-year-old. We were lucky enough to be at the invitation for the 19-year-old the other night for their new one. The 18-year-old got 6 months, 5-6 months, I think, in the wine barrels. The new one got 15 months, and the influence is there to see. You were talking about it. They have this Cabernet Franc, so the wines that's used in the Chateau de la Ligne are Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and they have this Cabernet Franc, and the Cabernet Franc has like a spice to it on its own as a grape variety. and it really comes through in the palate on the hinch on the new 19.
And even on the, like, because they've done the comparison, for it was cool, of
the wine itself
and some of the whiskey,
Yeah.
and the wine's a nice, it's really dry, it's like it's not,
yeah
and you can actually taste that in the whiskey
Yeah, yeah.
as well.
and I remember Chris Hennessy done it a while back remember he sent out the samples to people with tasting the different sherries and all
Yes.
that sort of stuff, the Pedro Jimenez, the Oloroso and all that sort of stuff. It is something I would genuinely say to anybody to do. I mean, if you get a chance, try and taste the wine that
the whiskey's
influences
influenced with, yeah.
Yeah, because you really then start, and it helps you understand your palate. It helps you understand the whiskey. It helps you understand, what goes into making these whiskies. I mean, it's not a case of just lumping it in a barrel. I mean,
No.
and I know from talking to a lot of the distillers and the guys who are involved, it's such a fine line. A week extra in a barrel can actually, do
Make it or
wonders.
break it.
Make it or break it. It really is that. And I mean, I know Jarlath are up there with their ones as well. They're constantly. No, I think that's Jarlath doing it for the crack.
Probably.
But there is an element of you're constantly tasting the whiskey to make sure that it's just at the right
Yeah.
point. And the skill of a blender or a distiller or all of these teams is knowing what that tipping point is. Because, again, I've seen the other side of that curve where, whiskey starts to deteriorate. Not deteriorate, but it starts to become too much and the palate gets blown out of it as well. So there you go. That's today's lesson. And if anybody else wants to be doing private tutorials... Can I do that? Wine cast finishes, lads. Investigate it. Look at it. I mean, we all love whiskies, and some of the brands that we love, we don't even click that how they're finished or the wine influence that's on it. As I say, prime example would be the Teeling 24-year-old. I mean, the first Irish whiskey the world win the world's best single malt Sauternes wine, dessert wine. But there's been loads of them. And the great thing about Irish whiskey is that the brands, the distillers, they have the freedom to do that.
Oh,
I mean,
of course,
they can
yeah.
mature wines in different casks. It doesn't have to be bourbon like our Scottish compatriots over the other side.
Yes.
So that's it. We'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow's Wednesday.
It is.
It is. I know we're going to talk about the lads who mopped the floor at the Irish Whiskey Awards.
Oh,
the other night.
yes.
They literally cleaned up. I think McGuinness was there afterwards sweeping the floor because there was just any other awards that wasn't there he had to take with him because they won everything. It'll
Delighted
be
for
our
them.
pals Dunvilles. We'll be talking about them tomorrow. So until then,